Hey, this is Brett Hall with Bible Belt Outdoors. I want to take a moment this week for the Ministry Minute and kind of talk about the presidential race and upcoming election. I normally try not to dive too deep into the political arena, but I don't mind mixing religion and politics. We as Christians should be standing up and getting involved in the laws that's being passed and what the politicians running for and what they stand for. And, you know, it seems to be that Christians nowadays are getting bullied. We're really not standing up for what we say we believe in. We're becoming spineless jellyfish, to be honest with you. It's time that we stick together and make a stand. And, you know, some pastors and some Christians think, well, you know, that's not the Christian thing to do, you know, and we become a little submissive and complacent. But I want to draw from Matthew chapter 23, where Jesus teaches us a lesson that, you know, it's okay to challenge the establishment. We're seeing that now recently. You know, with Trump, he even though he's running as a Republican, he's kind of on his own. You know, you got both sides, the Democrats and the Republican Party, both kind of lobbying to try to hinder his run, you know, because he doesn't conform to the establishment. I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, back in the primary, I'm in Alabama, I voted for Cruz. His views and religious views and his voting record most align with mine. But I'm seeing him do some things here recently as the race has gotten more tension to it, and it's gotten down between him and Cruz him and Trump, that I necessarily don't agree with either. But in Matthew chapter 23, Jesus is warning against hypocrisy. And, you know, all of these politicians, they're going to say what they think we want to hear to get our vote. A lot of it will never come to be. That could be hypocritical. But here Jesus is standing up against the establishment, which is the Pharisees. And even though they knew the law, listen to what Jesus says. Matthew chapter 23, it says, "Then Jesus said to the crowds and his disciples, 'The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you.'" What? Well, he's saying they're hypocrites, but we must do what they say. Well, that's because they knew the law. They knew how to live a perfect Christian life in those times. But they may have not necessarily done the things that they should be doing as a Christian. And so, you know, that's kind of a warning to us, or a lesson that, hey, even though we may not agree with this Christian, the way he's living his life, but he may be understand how to live it. He just falls to temptations, or may not can control a certain aspect in his life, so we can still listen to that. But then it goes on to say, "But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach." We've heard that before. "They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on the other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them." You know, that's a lot like our leaders today. They're quick to tell you how to run your life or what you should do, but they're not doing it themselves. It says, "Everything they do is done for people to see. They make their phylacteries wide and their tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honor at the banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplace and to be called rabbi by others." You know, it's a lot like that too with some of the leaders and politicians. You know, they like that stigma that comes along with being in power. It says, "But you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth father, for you have one Father, and he is in heaven. Nor are you to be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant, for those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." Let me read that again. "For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." You know, we got a lot of leaders and politicians exalting themselves, building themselves up, selling themselves. You know, in life, I've always been taught by my father, grandfather, my mother. You know, you don't have to or pay much attention to what someone does and boast about themselves. Just listen to the ones around them. If they're praising them and building them up and exalting them, then there's usually something to it. That goes true. Then Jesus goes on to say, "Oh, here's the 7 woes of the teachers of the law, the Pharisees. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's face. You yourself do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. You know, that applies today, right? That establishment, the Republican Democrat Party, you know, they've got it the way they like it. They don't want to let an outsider in. It may change things, you know, and they're kind of just shutting us out, shutting the Christian values out, you know, and we're not bonding together and standing up. You know, it's just like some of the recent organizational boycotts, PayPal, NFL. You know, you got all these places with the gender-neutral bathrooms. Well, you know, there really are, by population, enough Christians. If we stand up and stand together, those type boycotts shouldn't bully anyone. We can overcome that. In verse 15, it goes on to say, Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You travel over the land and the sea to win a single convert, and when you have succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. You know, go back to politicians. They'll travel all over for one particular race or sex or demographic. You know, they'll go for that one top vote. And they'll kind of sell their soul to get that. Verse 16, Woe to you, blind guides! You say, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But anyone who swears by the gold of the temple is bound by the oath. You blind fool! Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? You also say, if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. But anyone who swears by the gift on the altar is bound by the oath. You blind men! Which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Therefore, anyone who swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it. And anyone who swears by the temple swears by it and by the one who dwells in it. And anyone who swears by heaven swears by God's throne and by the one who sits on it. You know, what that kind of means to me is you got a lot of these churches that are preaching a popular message. They're making the church look and appeal to today's society in a way, some areas conforming. That's not what this says. It says, if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. But anyone who swears by the gift on the altar is bound by the oath. You blind man, which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift? You know, we got to look in what is the underlining thing that we should be worshiping, not a building. Verse 23, Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guide, you strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. You know, we can get focused in on that one little thing and miss everything. It's kind of like missing the tree from the forest, kind of saying. Verse 27, Woe to you, teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrite! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteousness, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. You know, we can clean up on the outside and we can be fake, but it's what's on the inside will eventually come out. Verse 29, Woe to you, teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrites! You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous, and you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. So you testify against yourself that you are the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Go ahead then and complete what your ancestors started. You know, we are to respect our elders, but I will say, you know, you hear a lot of the older generation saying, well, it wasn't like that in my day. You know, if that was me as a child, I wouldn't do that. You know, that right there is telling us that there's a good chance we would, or you would. It's just because you didn't think about it. But we can't dismiss what's going on now, and we need to take care of it. In verse 33, it says, You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore I am sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in the synagogues and pursue from town to town. And so upon you will come all the righteousness blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous able to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechath, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Truly, I tell you, all this will come on this generation. Verse 37, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing. Look, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. He's calling on us. He's been calling on this nation. And we've turned to wicked ways. He's willing to put us under his wing, protect us, lead, guide, and direct us. But we're turning away at a rampant rate. I don't know what it's going to take, but it's time that we be bold, stand up for our faith, whatever the consequences, whatever the persecution. Quit being that spineless jellyfish that Christians have become known to be. And let's stand up, whether it's social media, in the public, in your church, in your community, at work, in politics. Get involved. Quit sitting on the couch. Thanks, and God bless.